Claire joins us live from New Zealand with more of her story. Claire, it's so great to have you on Studio 10. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Claire, can I take you back to the day that your life changed? What do you remember from that accident in 1995?
I remember everything about that day. I was conscious throughout the whole thing. I think at the time, obviously, I didn't realise how serious it was, even when they were airlifting me to hospital. I actually tried to poke my head out the window and have a look at the view, but quickly got told that was a really bad idea because I had a suspected broken neck, which, we found out was tetraplegia when I got to hospital.
Oh, wow.
So you were paralysed from the neck down and have been in a wheelchair ever since. What were the years after the accident like?
Very dark. For the first couple of years, I would say, extremely depressing. I still got on. I did my degree. I went to university, but I was extremely depressed. I'm very good at, putting on a smile and just getting through things. But it was difficult. It was difficult. It's a real shift. You have one body and then suddenly you're given another body, and it's just about learning to adapt to that. And I didn't adapt very well at all.
Claire, your openness to talk about everything that you've gone through since 1995 has inspired so many people, and you're so open to be able to talk about it, and especially today. Claire, you attempted suicide multiple times and were encouraged by the Suicide Outreach Clinic to look into assisted suicide overseas. What did the psychiatrist tell you, and how did this moment change your life?
It sort of led up. It was a series of events, basically. I wasn't coping. I had a full-time job and I was studying for my master's full-time. So it was a whole bunch of things. I wasn't sleeping, broken marriage, infertility. So these are all issues that actually weren't related to my condition, which is obviously tetraplegia. So when I went to the outreach clinic, he basically looked at me and he said, look, if I had your condition, I would definitely be looking into something like assisted suicide. Obviously overseas, it's not available in New Zealand. But nobody asked me anything about, what was actually wrong, which is the fact that I wasn't sleeping and I was seriously unhappy. I was suffering from a lot of pain from overwork and just not coping with, with the situation.
Does that advice disturb you now when you look back on that advice that you were given then?
Absolutely. I was in a really vulnerable position and, I guess I wanted help. But instead, to be told by a doctor, you should be looking into basically looking at, ending your life because they assume my quality of life was so bad that why would I want to live? You think, well, I guess that's, it's coming from a health practitioner. I guess it's a legitimate solution to my problem. So at the time, I thought it was a good idea.
Clearly I'm staggered to hear that was the advice that you were given. What occurred after that? What process did you go through from hearing that and obviously what you processed yourself after that moment?
Well, I went as far as signing up to a group in Switzerland and was getting money together to go over. And then ironically, I actually had surgery just before I was going to go to Switzerland, which I had to have because my neck, the stability of my neck was unfortunately sort of coming apart. Surgery went really, really badly. The surgeon put a screw into my spinal cord, which caused further paralysis. It meant I lost my job. I lost everything. I lost my income. You can't sue in New Zealand, so I wasn't in a good position. I was probably more depressed. But ironically, even though I was more disabled, I had a year to sleep. I was given an incredible amount of support by the government. And also I started talking to some key academics about quality of life and what that means if you have a disability. And I started looking into doing a PhD on basically that issue because I realised that the advice I was given was just so appalling, but also not necessarily their fault because that's what 80% of health professionals believe, that someone with tetraplegia does not have a quality of life.
That's profound. What you've just said is profound. Do you reflect on what could have been? Because it was kind of a bit of a sliding doors, I guess, because the world is richer for you having done your PhD.
I like to think so. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I found out some really amazing things. And I mean, since then, obviously, I started social media. I got an Italian modelling agency got hold of me. So I've been overseas, I've been to Fashion Week, and I've done all these amazing things, which I never thought would ever be possible. So yeah, it's just been a roller coaster. And I just think every day that I'm still here. And also I find it quite incredible for myself personally that you can change the way you think. I was so sure I would always be pro assisted suicide until I realised the dangers, I guess, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really scared at the moment for what's happening in New Zealand, which is, you know, we're looking at passing a similar act over here about assisted suicide, and I'm just like, hey, we need to look at the safeguards, because I talk to a lot of people like myself, and I know a lot of people would do assisted suicide if they could, because they don't have the support, and that's terrifying.
What would your message be to young people that are struggling right now and also living with a disability?
You know, try to reconceptualise the disability. I know that sounds really strange, but we're given these different bodies. You know, I see my disability as a superpower, because it's given me all of these different sets of skills that, you know, yeah, life is hard and it's challenging, but it's also, you know, you learn compassion and you learn adaptability. And if you can sort of rephrase, you know, your disability into a positive, then I guess it just changes everything, you know, really. And just try and connect with other people. I always say try and get some sleep as well. But, you know, I always tell people things do get better, but they take a lot of time. It takes an awful lot of time to adjust to a different body. And that's okay. And it's also okay not being okay. So, you know, we need to look at the way we grieve. And that's a whole nother ballpark, which I'll be looking into when I finish my PhD.
Claire, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Claire Freeman, all the way in New Zealand.